rather it be a test dummy for studies for immunity or cash just to take the vaccine, what would you do?
How will this play out?
I think Kevin Durant and myself are envisioning Kyrie getting the vaccine and making everything okay. Eventually, Skip, they were going to get tired of, and I think Steve Nash said that we're not moving practice so he can practice. It's not like they can play their home game in another arena, Skip. It is what it is. The arena rules have been established, and so that's where we are. And I think the thing is that KD and Kyrie, they went to Brooklyn for this very reason. They could have gone to any other team, Skip. They could have gone to the Knicks. They said, no, the Knicks have already won a championship. The Knicks brand is already established. Why not go somewhere where they've never won a championship? People look down on this franchise because they haven't had a whole lot of success. How about we go there and turn it around? Then we'll be heroes. We'll be cult figures for the rest of our lives. Well, this is your opportunity. And the only thing that can get in the way of this, Skip, obviously injury. You know how injury.
So Shannon Sharp. That's who I was trying to remember his name. So he starts out first. And what does he go to? The cost. The cost of what Kyrie Irving is doing. The cost of a championship. Now, like I said earlier, I'm not in Kyrie's head. But Kyrie did, if I'm not mistaken, mention in a public statement, it was his private decision and he was still doing some research. Obviously, he had some concerns about it, just like most people do. And so he's decided at this point not to take it. Now they've taken to publicly shaming him. Of course, it's some publicity involved. They're trying to get ratings and all that good stuff. But the bottom line is, at this point, it's public shaming. It's telling him that he's costing himself and his team a championship. So the question is this: championship and again, I'm not in Kyrie's head, but let's just say, for the sake of this conversation that we're having, that the conversation is championship or personal health and well-being. What would you do? Is the cost of possibly hurting yourself, is that more important, or is winning a championship more important? This is what he's saying in this moment, which is stupid. It's stupidity. It's the equivalent of taking penitentiary chances to provide for your family. It's a cost. Now, mind you, many of us have done that have lived in that environment or lived that lifestyle. We've taken those chances, myself included. But at this point in my life, and from Kyrie's perspective, he's already got the bag. So why even risk it? But that's what he's saying. That's exactly what he's saying at this point. He's saying, Shannon Sharp is actually saying that Kyrie shouldn't think about his health and well-being. What he should be concerned about is the championship. Isn't that something that for you Bible scholars out there, isn't that something that Satan tempted Jesus with? Not championship, but accolades. If you just bow down to me. And doesn't that sound familiar? Let's continue.
Did it last year. It's this COVID vaccine. Now, do I believe they can possibly win the a championship with KD and James Harden? Sure.
Do you really?
I do, Skip. I do, Skip. It makes it a lot more difficult. Because now all of a sudden you're on a level playing field. Milwaukee might have an advantage.
KD, James Harden, and Patty Mills?
I don't know. They got Blake. They got a few.
Okay.
You like the Bruce Brown. You like Bruce Brown. But I think now all of a sudden you bring Miami into the fold. You bring the Bucks into it. You bring the Philadelphia Eagles if and when they get their situation resolved. So Skip, I think it makes it a lot more difficult than it would just with KD and James Harden. Now you throw Kyrie in the mix, and the general manager said there's 77 chance of winning it all. So it shows they're the 7 and 10.
77% of the GMs voted for them as the best team.
Right. So you're talking about
only 17% said the Lakers were.
So definitely 80% of the general managers believe with those three in the lineup, they're the overwhelming favorite.
That's prohibitive.
And so, Skip, for me, that's the only thing that can slow this thing down. And KD even said it. Maybe I'm being naive, but at some point in time, the rubber's going to need to meet the road.
It is.
And Kyrie's going to have to make a decision. And the Brooklyn Nets are going to have to make a decision.
They are.
Are we going to have to, because every game that he does not play, we're going to have to address this. If and when Kyrie's going to get the vaccine, have you talked to Kyrie? Do you think he's going to be open to getting the vaccine? Have you talked to Kyrie? Well, Katie, how does that make you feel knowing that you have a championship caliber team and one of the guys that you assembled with?
Yep.
Katie went there because of Kyrie. And now here we are. We went. Not only did I come here because of you, we can win a championship.
We can win the championship. That's the most important thing. Being uncomfortable being comfortable is the most important thing. You heard him mention how the media is going to be pressing him, his teammates rather, and the team for answers. When we know that the media, only thing they're concerned with is clickbait. The only thing they're concerned with is ratings. So it's not a genuine concern. But again, everything that they're doing, every technique, every ploy that they have incorporated to double down and press people on something that should be a personal choice and should be something that should be respected. Everything that they're doing is the same thing that was employed in the temptation of Jesus Christ. Again, for you biblical scholars, it just sounds so similar. It's almost spooky to a certain extent.
And the only thing that's going to prevent us from winning a championship is us. James Harden says if we do things the right way, we got a great opportunity to do something special. Well, I think the right way is going to be, at the end of the day, is going to come down to whether or not Kyrie gets vaccinated. I believe he's going to get vaccinated. That's what I do believe, Skip, and then we'll go from there. But right now, he's making things a lot more difficult for the Brooklyn Nets than probably what it needs to be.
Shannon Sharp, I so hope.
Championship, accolades, prestige, fame, fortune. Is it an even trade-off for your own sovereignty, your ability to live a decision-led life, mistakes and all, versus and I said this in my article that I published today on the Elephant Journal, and I put that down in the down below in the comment section or whatever. The ability to lead a decision-led life versus I'm existing life. Like I'm just existing. I believe that's the type of conversation that people are having. A lot of people that respect and honor personal decisions. You can't respect and honor others' personal decisions if you don't acknowledge that you have the ability to do the same thing. That's why it's so easy to be judgmental and jump down someone else's throat about doing or not doing. Because you don't believe, and this is my own personal opinion, you don't believe that you personally have the ability to make a choice. That's what free will is supposed to be all about. Now, Wiggins, he decided to go in a whole different direction. And at first he was holding out, but they applied the heat, they applied the pressure. And he says that it was almost kind of comical, but it was sad at the same token. Now, I felt the conviction in his statement. And he basically said that no one has sovereignty over their own body anymore. I guess no one has the ability to they don't own their own body. I'm paraphrasing. I'm gonna I just flashed the comments that he made. I just flashed it on the video, but it's like if no one can make decisions concerning their own personal life, then where does free will come in at? Why is it in this instance such a detriment? And we can think about tons of other instances where it's not an issue. And and we can go down the line: drinking, smoking, premarital sex, risky sex, like all these things. It's not an issue. You have free will. Live your life. Live and let live. My body, all that silly sayings. But in this instance, for the sake of a championship, for the sake of being accepted, for the sake of being liked, the sake of fitting in, all these things sound familiar. And of course, they've been magnified because of the power behind the entity that's pushing it. But it's the same thing. Why would one trade the possibility of living a personal decision-led life, mistakes and all, for a just existing-led life? I'm just existing. I'm just here. I'm here to do what I'm told. Zombie-like thought. Now, like I said, Kyrie's in a unique position, and really Wiggins was, in my opinion. They've already got the bag. And some say, well, when is enough enough? I don't know. That's your own personal decision or your own personal view. But in my opinion, these athletes, these NBA players that have the quote unquote the bag and they are in a unique position, they have the ability to change views and perspectives if they're willing to stand on principle and stand in conviction about what they believe in. Because I don't think these two, Bradley Beal being one, I think there's 3 or 4, the young man out of Orlando who spoke eloquently about his view on it. I don't think they're the only ones that feel this way. But the pressure of the machine called the NBA, the federal government, and society as a whole, like these two, Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp, that are going along to get along, a part of the common think tank, zombie-like thought, doing what everybody else is doing, saying what everybody else is saying. They got the memo. These things, these people are being used in unison to apply that pressure. And folks in these positions, like I said, these athletes, they really don't know how much leverage and how much power they have. You talk about the media personality a while back that was criticizing, and I thought it was justifiably so, that it was criticizing LeBron James, basically telling him, or might have been emphatically telling him to shut up and play. He jumped out the window, jumped off the cliff about that. But when you think about what's being done now, it's the exact same thing. Shut up and play. If you want to play, this is what you have to do. You don't own your own body. You don't own yourself. We own you. Your employer owns you. The federal government owns you. Science owns you. And that's a whole nother video. I touched on that a while back, a few days ago actually, with this patent thing. You guys look that up, research that. Research patent vaccines. And it should come up. But anyway.
You're right. But I don't know why you think he'll suddenly get vaccinated. Because of what? What leads you? Are you just guessing? Are you educated guessing? Are you wishing and hoping?
The same thing that led to Andrew Wiggins to get it.
Okay. Well, and that was, he admitted that was just money.
Exactly.
Exactly. That was just money. And that's what they're threatening, not only these NBA players, but everyone essentially. How many people have been laid off, suspended, because they decided that they want to exercise body sovereignty, that they have free will, that no one controls them. That's essentially what's happening. They're using money, which again was one of the temptations from a biblical perspective. They're using money, they're using power, they're using fame and fortune to leverage people in a position that they want them to be in. It's the elephant in the room. It's the thing that nobody is willing to honestly talk about. What does the Bible say about how difficult it is for a rich man to get into heaven? It also references what is it that a man should gain the whole world but lose his soul? Like, what's the end game? What's the objective of life? Is it to get the bag by any means necessary? Take penitentiary chances? Get the shot? What's the end game? What is the objective of life? In this day and age, in this time, in this season, we really need to be asking ourselves these things. Because the propositions that are going to be presented and that are being presented now, it's going to force you to make a decision. And the question is, are you making the right decision? And I'm not talking about a temporary decision. Because see, this life, this flesh, this life on this side is temporary. And I know all of us want to be comfortable. All of us want to have things. All of us want to. But let's say, for instance, that God is calling you, calling us to make a decision, to be uncomfortable as a sign of commitment and allegiance to him. I'm not saying that's what he's doing. But if he does, what you gonna do?
It's 32 million. This is 33-ish million.
Right. Well,
But Andrew said, I want my kids to have generational wealth.
And I hate when they talk about people money. They love doing that. It's just so disrespectful. I thought that the taboo was counting another man's pocket. And Shannon Sharp know this. He talked about this thousands of times on Undisputed. When there's a dispute with a player and the team about a contract, how does the other players view that? Oh, we don't get in. That's between them and the team. We don't count on another man's pocket. But when it comes to this, as a media personality, you have the right to do it. I'm not saying you can't report, but it's the way you're reporting it. How you're talking about it. You're talking down on this man and saying, because he's making all this money, he's obligated to do what he's told. Like a slave. Well, maybe that's not even the right analogy, because the slaves didn't even get paid. But it is slavish. Is that a word?
So basically, so you split that in half because you play 41 games at home and 41 on the road. So you split that in half. So whatever Kyrie's salary is, split it right down the middle.
And then he's advocating that they take their man money. What does that have to do with you? Why are you trying to undercut this man? The team might not even be thinking that, but you putting it out there. As a black man, and we hold our fist up and we stick together and that's my brother. But we get on national television. We got a little cushy seat. We got a little position. And we undercut the next black man. Which we shouldn't be undercutting any man. But I just find it offensive for you to do that. It don't make any sense. What does that man money have to do with you? You decided to do what you decided to do, and he's deciding to do what he's deciding to do. It's just, it's venomous, to say the least. It's venomous, for lack of a better term. That's kind of snaky. Do you want the man to win or you don't?
And it's costing him, what, $372,000 for these preseason games that he's missing.
Kyrie has made a lot more money in his time than Andrew has made in his time in the league. It just strikes me that money is not the object for Kyrie Irving.
Okay.
His principles are his passion now. He envisions himself as a visionary, as a breakthrough thinker against the grain, seeing the truth before others see it. And he's taking a stand now, just the way he took a stand on Earth is flat, Illuminati, rule the world.
And so there's intelligence now, geek, laughing and giggling. I don't even know what Kyrie's mindset was when he made that statement about Earth being flat. He might have just been playing. Who knows? But to use that to undercut and undermine this man's position and the principle he's standing on concerning his own personal health in this moment in time is disrespectful. It's foul. It's slimy, man. And it's unnecessary. Some things is uncalled for. Some things shouldn't be done. Whether this man is right or wrong, he has a right to his opinion and his perspective. We all do. And for some reason, this topic is so lopsided, so left-centered, that it's only one opinion that counts. And if you're thinking anything else, then you're a part of some conspiracy. You're a part of some group, supremacy group. When it just seemed like it wasn't too long ago that the very entity, the government, say about, a year ago? Last 3 years? 4 years? When there was a certain pink man in office, that entity wasn't to be trusted, and was pushing the same agenda. Maybe some would say to a lesser degree, because I have to give him the fact that even though I don't agree with him creating it or pushing to create it, he did at least not advocate it being taken by force. Same entity. And for some reason, and rightfully so, some would say, Black people have always had an issue with government.
Quietly, secretly, and now he's saying that the COVID vaccine, I haven't heard this exactly from him, I'm assuming this is what he's saying. The COVID vaccine is a government plot against us all, and that in the end we'll all find out that we were duped and taken.
And I only remember him saying that, but some of us believe that. And why and why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't some people believe that when the pressure is so thick, when it's double down after double down, when you're threatening people versus educating people? There's no education. There's a threat. There's some material out there. There's some information out there, but just because you have information doesn't mean you're educating me. Because education is to and fro. It's an even exchange. You educate, I raise my hand. I raise my hand, I asked you a question. You answer my question. But when I raise my hand and I asked you a question, if you allow me to raise my hand, I don't know if you guys have had those teachers. When I was in school, I had a few teachers that would ignore you. Because I felt like because they knew a lot of times that you were just trying to interrupt class or be a distraction. That doesn't justify what they did. I still feel like that they should have still entertained my question. Because they don't know if it was one of those times that I was actually serious or not. But to purposely ignore millions of people who have legitimate questions, to be demeaning, to be disrespectful, to purposely undermine their position and their perspective, that's not educating. That's not very inviting. That's not very inclusive. And that's what's happening.
Evilly advantage of by the United States government. That's where we're heading, because that's the way his mind works. And I respect his mind, and I love his mind, and I love him as a player. And you know how much I love the Nets, but I do not love this situation, and I'm doubting he's going to get vaccinated.
And I think Skip is a little more respectful than Shannon. I honestly do. Shannon just goes in. And I'm still trying to figure out why. What is your agenda? What do you have to gain out of this? Other than being the talking point for the agenda. I just don't understand.
I hope you're right.
Where'd I trade it?
Well,
Now you're advocating trade.
I'm sure they have discussed that. But because of this stance, he's making himself, a la Ben Simmons, virtually untradeable unless you want to get back 10 cents on the dollar.
Well, no, Skip, he's not untradeable, because all you have to do is trade him to a place that doesn't have one of these mandates in place. So only
But it's still some issue for the team. That there is some problem that you're going to have to cope with if he says, I'm not going to get vaccinated.
Right.
His value won't be peak value, and if they feel like they have to get rid of him, that's the Ben Simmons situation. I'm not trading for Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know.
Because James Harden's your point guard, and now you can play Ben Simmons at a point forward.
Okay. Not a bad idea.
Yeah.
That seems pretty even up to me. Actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would actually do that. I would advocate that if the Sixers want to deal with the issues of he's not
And
vaccinated.
he makes Philly that much better, because you got a guy. Can you imagine Kyrie and Joel Embiid in the pick and roll, Skip? Can you imagine doubling down on Joel Embiid and he kicks it to Kyrie?
All right. I don't mind that. I think Kyrie would balk at it. I don't think he wants to live and play in
Well,
Philly.
he got no trade clause.
He is from New Jersey,
Yeah,
so
okay.
it's pretty
It's close to
close.
Philly.
It's closer to Philly than.
Maybe his agenda is his selfish fandom. He wants to just see him play. And as I think about it, even from LeBron's not too long ago position of being more than a basketball player, and a lot of players, even Kevin Durant, talking about how they are more than just players, and they're not just circus animals, so to speak. Even that position itself, just wanting to see him play, is demeaning and disrespectful. If you take the stance of undercutting him as a man and a human being for the sake of entertainment. These are human beings. The value of a human being, obviously extends further than the court or the football field or whatever arena or whatever you're doing. This man was created by God Almighty. That in itself equates value. But you would love to see him in a pick and roll in Philadelphia with Joel Embiid.
Brooklyn is in a lot of ways, right? Okay, so I'm back to Kevin's quote. And to your point, the irony of this is, I believe Kevin Durant is easily the best player in the league. But in this relationship with Kyrie Irving, he is the follower and Kyrie is the leader. So he's not taking a stand against the leader of their friendship.
Right.
He's just basically saying, I'm envisioning Kyrie being part of this team. Well, it's almost like I'm fantasizing about it. I'm dreaming of it.
Everything's going. I would wake up in the morning and Kyrie got vaccinated and everything.
But his next quote is, maybe I'm just being naive, but that's just how I feel.
Right.
Well, obviously, you, Kevin, have been in close touch with Kyrie, I'm assuming.
Right.
And I'm assuming he keeps hearing about government plot. Right. That's what I'm assuming, that he's here.
See how they just make light? You got Shannon over there giggling as if this couldn't be so. how consumed can you be with zombie-like thought to not even consider this possibility? Again, the same government, the same entity that wasn't trusted maybe 6, 7, 8 months ago, a year ago, 2, 3, 4 years ago. But now, all of a sudden, that changes.
Kyrie is completely and utterly dug in.
Right.
So he's telling the media, just to get himself off the hook and out of the line of fire, he's saying, I'm envisioning. It's actually a good way to answer the question. I'm envisioning, I'm hoping,
Right.
I'm dreaming.
The way I see things.
Right?
But that's not how it is
But
right now.
it's coming across like that's an ominous quote
Right.
from Kevin. That could be a damning quote from Kevin because it's the old damning with faint praise.
Skip, the thing is that all KD wants to do is play basketball.
Yeah.
Skip, he doesn't.
All he wants to do is
He don't want to call
he
no
wants
team
to hoop.
meeting.
I agree.
He don't want to call no team meeting.
Okay.
He don't want to give no pep talks.
Okay.
Kevin Durant want to go out there and hit 30.
Okay, that's how I'm built to love basketball.
Yes.
Shannon Sharp was born with the gift to play football, and he worked his tail off
Right.
to play it. But he hooped, in effect.
Right.
When it was time to hoop, he hooped.
Right.
Because you loved it, and you're willing to sacrifice several body parts
Right.
to play it at a supreme.
Now, I guess the reference to sacrificing, we're going to leave it there. But I guess the reference to sacrificing is sacrifice several body parts. Sacrifice even your life. Sacrifice principles, firm convictions, your belief system for the sake of the game or the sake of the bag. Some sacrifices is not an even trade-off. Some sacrifices are dummy moves, so to speak. Some sacrifices are not sacrifices. If you decide to, I'm going to use the penitentiary chances as an example. If you decide to take a penitentiary chance and for the sake of providing for your family, is that an even trade-off? Is that a legitimate sacrifice? Because there's many different ways you can provide. And we all have standards of living or standards that we'd like to get to. But at the end of the day, if it's a sacrifice or a trade-off that sacrifices let me see if I can put this correctly. It sacrifices your life for eternity. Your life literally and your life for eternity. Is that a good sacrifice? Is that a good trade-off? Obviously, everybody got to make their own decision. Although they're trying to make it for you at this point in time. But I don't believe so. And I've made a lot of uneven trade-offs in my life, where the return on the sacrifice or the return on the trade-off wasn't what I expected. And a lot of times I knew it ahead of time. It's because of my selfish desires and warped views and perspectives when it came to need that caused me to make that decision. Do I need all the accolades, fame, and fortune? Probably not. Not to exist. Do I want it? Some would say yeah. But do you need it? At the expense of not being able to make your own decisions. Everybody got to ask themselves that. Do I want all the fame, accolades, and fortune, the acceptance? Or do I need it at the expense of my physical life and my eternal life? Because at the end of the day, this is just part of the journey. There's this side of life, then there's another side of life. And that other side of life is where we're going to spend eternity. I can't just focus on this side of life. I got to focus on the other side of life, because that's where I'm going to spend eternity. So while society is pushing, they're pushing all of these goals, dreams, and accolades. They're pushing all of this status, all this affirmation associated with what I can get and gain on this side of life. What am I investing on the other side of life? And if what I'm doing on this side of life, if it's affecting the other side of life, is it really worth it? I really have had to ask myself this question lately. And I really think people should be asking themselves this more and more often, especially now. If I had the opportunity to ask Kyrie, and again, this is their own, I know this is their own personal decision, and I'm not trying to get you to sway one way or the other. I know the way that I should go. And I will hope others will make that same decision, because I don't want to see anybody suffer on the other side of life. Because I don't want to suffer on the other side of life. But if I'm pushing all, and I'm gambling, and I'm pushing all my chips in the middle of the table, and I'm taking a chance on this side of life, and there's a 50-50 chance that I win or lose on the other side of life, is that an even exchange? Is that a good sacrifice? When the blueprint has already been laid out, some of these things on the pole of importance should not be at the top. Fame and fortune and accolades and acceptance, comfort, all that's not going to do me any good. It might do me some good on this side of life, but it's not going to do me any good on the other side of life. And if all those things are high on the priority list, and other things like moral character, like firm conviction, in believing that what I do on this side of life affects the other side of life. Like sacrificing some of those fleshly needs on this side of life in order to have those spiritual promises on the other side of life. If I had opportunity to ask Kyrie Irving and even Wiggins, because Wiggins, when I read that statement about why he did it, I felt the pain in that statement. It was like I didn't have a choice. They're forcing me to do this. And I have concerns. And I'm just going to throw the dice. I'm going to gamble. I'm going to put my chips to the middle of the table and hope for the best. That's exactly what he said. The hope for the best part. And it's like, that's terrible. In a nutshell, that's not right. But yeah, I mean, that's just, like I said, if I had a chance to ask them the question, I asked them, what's more important? Your physical well-being, the possibility of making the wrong decision when it comes to your physical well-being, as well as making a decision that could possibly jeopardize your spiritual well-being. And on the other side of life, of this life, what's more important? I understand that there's a level of importance when it comes to team, when it comes to your job, the ability to work. I honestly believe that some of us, all of us in this stage, in this season, are being asked a subliminal question, and we just don't recognize. Some of us don't even recognize it. What's more important? What the world wants or what God wants? I truly do believe that's the question that's being asked right now. There's different tiers, of course, but I really feel like it's going to intensify. It's starting on a small scale. The world's acceptance or my acceptance. Accolades, fortune, and fame that the world can give you, or the promises that I can give you on the other side of life. And some of us, different facets of life, we're gonna make a decision. And hopefully we make the right decision. Well, you guys take care. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like. Again, look down in the comment section. Check out the article that I read in the Elephant Journal. I also put the link to the previous video that I put out. What would you do? Again, I played a small snippet at the beginning of this video just to segue into the conversation and what we're going to talk about today. But also comment. Tell me what you think. Whether we agree or disagree. You guys already know my perspective. I made tons of videos on this. What would you do? Some of you have already made a decision. Tell me why you made that decision. And give me more than the cliche statements that's out. Where did you get this evidence? Why do you believe what you believe? Is it because they said it? Because someone told you? Or did you do your own research? Matter of fact, did you talk to God about it? Tell me that. You guys take care, and I'm out.